Welcome to you all. It's so wonderful to have you here today for our Lunch and Learn session. We are so honored to be hosting a discussion on the entirely impactful, incredibly innovative, and connected to our community and to our campus project, Raíces, Rutas y Ritmos, and I'm sorry if I butchered that name. I'm going to turn this, my name is Elizabeth Shapiro Garza, and I'm going to turn it over to Abdullah Antabli, who will provide introductions today. But thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm adding my own thanks for joining us. We are up for an intellectual, scholarly, and artistic treat by three distinguished scholars, artists, and community influencers. And I will go quickly in the order that I'm going to introduce them. My name is Abdullah Antabli. I'm the Associate Vice President Provost on Community Engagement, also faculty in Sanford School of Public Policy. First, we have Dr. Betsaida Fernandez. She's a senior lecturer in the Department of Romance Studies. She teaches all levels of Spanish with an emphasis on intermediate and advanced level courses with core content on health and the Latina immigration issues. In 2023, she was awarded the Richard K. Lublin Award for Outstanding Undergraduate Teaching by the Trinity College. And we already shared everyone's bio. I am going to only highlight a few. And then the next, we have Dr. Miguel Rojas Sotelo. He's an art historian, visual artist, activist, scholar, and curator. Currently works and teaches at the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies and the Nicholas School of Environment at Duke University, and is the director of the North Carolina Latin American Film Festival. And last but not least, as you can see from the wonderful pictures behind him, we have Rafael Asuba, is the founder of El Cojito, or Don Quixote, as we call it, director a festival, artist, studio project, artist, storyteller, author, publisher, producer, curator, art advocate. She's the Don Quixote. She's a Cojita. Asuba, Puerto Rican cultural producer, visual artist, narrator, defender of the arts, author, editor, mentor, and self-proclaimed Cojito, Don Quixote, as we say in my part of the world. Welcome, everyone. They're going to go in the order that I've introduced them, and looking forward to engaging with them. Once they finish their presentations, we will have a Q&A and a rich conversation. The floor is yours. Dr. Fernandez, you are muted.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah, for your kind introduction. And I want to know if we are sharing the right presentation. Yes, good. Okay.
Now, yes.
Raíces, Rutas y Ritmos, listening, embodying, and amplifying Hispanic Latino culture via civic engagement. And we just want to share the goals for the talk today. We're going to do it in 4 parts. The first part is, why do we do civic engagement? Betsaida, Rafael, and myself will share a little bit of why do we do this. Then we'll share with you the project that Raíces, Rutas y Ritmos, roots, routes, and rhythms. And then we'll share a little bit of the successes and challenges of working in this mode, quote unquote, civic engagement, and then we'll engage with you through questions. Then why do we do civic engagement? Betsaida.
Thank you, Miguel, and thank you, Abdullah, for the presentation, the introduction. Well, my name is Betsaida Fernandez, and I'm in Romance Studies, and I believe completely in this type of pedagogy. We really need to feel a firm believer that the students need to go out into the community and learn from the community directly. In my case, where I have been teaching courses on immigration and health, for example, there's plenty of possibilities here in Durham, gladly, to do these kind of interactions and these kind of connections. The students definitely should listen to the voices of the community. And the reason why I do civic engagement is because it not only teaches content, but it also develops a lot of skills that the student need to be and to become better citizens and more involved with social issues and more aware of what's happening around them. And that is the reason why I do civic engagement.
You want to share more, Beth?
Yes, and I actually, well, I had the points before, but actually these, I just have some pictures and a couple of quotes of students that seem to continue to come every time I teach a particular course that I teach every fall. And where the students are really surprised, first of all, to see the large community that is around us. And as you can read in the quote, for them is they feel that first of all, that this community we're dealing with is a bundle of problems, and that's why we go to them to help them, to do service for them, to get them out of some sort of challenge that they have. And no, my intention is to show them their value, to show them where they go, how they live their lives, how they interact with each other, how their art, their scholarship, and their struggles as well. But that's not the focus. So for me, it's very important that the students really know about them and that they go to them. They cannot be coming to us all the time. We really need to get out into the community and have them learn directly from them. And the experience continues to be a good one, and civic engagement and service learning and all these pedagogies that take us out of the classroom, to me, are top for learning.
Yeah. Ralph.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity to come on and to share our story and our project and our programming, and what we do to try to make North Carolina a better place to live, work, and play, right? So for me, civic engagement is something that I believe in wholeheartedly since I arrived to North Carolina. My wife and I chose to live here. And because we chose to live here, one of the things that I've always said is that if you want your community to be like you want it, or if you want to live in a quality place, then you need to be an active participant in that community. And so for the last 32 plus years, I have been working collaboratively, trying to find ways, opportunities, platforms for our community to be seen. I also did this selfishly because it gave me an opportunity to share to my children a little bit more about our culture and where we come from and the stories that we have. And so that's why I started doing the work that I have been doing over the last 30 plus years. In 2011, I refocused my focus and created Artist Studio Project, which our tagline is the art of collaboration, and tried to find ways to collaborate with members of the community, public spaces, libraries, universities, schools, municipalities, in order to create cultural programming, everything from literature to film to gastronomy to music, dance, in order to engage the community so that they could learn a little bit more about this vast emerging Latino community and the community of color. And through the arts, I have found that is the best vehicle that I can use to engage and to share these stories. So over the last several years, we've been working on creating what is now the El Quijote Festival, now in our 9th year, and we're already preparing for next year, which will be our 10th year doing this festival. It's a statewide festival that has had the opportunity to be gone as far as China, and this year we launched it from Spain. So we try to create these platforms through programming with different collaborators like Duke, specifically this wonderful program, which we came up with the idea of sharing these stories of this new vibrant community that had been coming from different parts of Latin America to And with them, they bring their stories, they bring their music, they bring their food, they bring all of those experiences. And so we wanted to find a way to share these stories. And so Miguel and I, with the help of many people, created Raíces, Rutas, y Ritmos. I am a graphic designer, I am a storyteller, and so I work with many different individuals throughout the state. One of them was the when we were doing when COVID came. I worked with the state to create a messaging program that was called Protégete a ti a los demás, vacúnate, as a campaign that I created for the state. I was very fortunate to be able to collaborate with them, as well as other members of in the community like UNC created this wonderful program, about like a comic strip that we did, so children to work with children to understand this problem with COVID, and so we try to find different ways to connect with that community. We feel that it's important that our community be reflected in everything that we do. One of the things that's very important to the work that we do is that our stories are told. So we created Cookie Books back in 2016, and we created a publishing company where we're able to now publish books from local writers, illustrators, and we're able to put those books inside the Library of Congress as well as local libraries. So that way the children in our community, when they go into these public spaces, they can see themselves reflected in the books, in their language, in their culture. And that to us is extremely important. And it goes way back to what I started saying, that if you want to live in a good community, then you need to be an active participant. And so I'm very active in my community to make sure that we have the opportunities and the platforms to be able to create and share our stories. So, yeah. So thank you so much for the opportunity to do that.
Thank you, Ralph. And my name is Miguel Rojas Sotelo. I'm originally from Colombia. And in the past decade, we have been also recognizing that we stand here in the ancestral lands of people that precede us, right? The Haliwa, Saponi, or the Tuscarora, the Saoyan, the Cherokee, and the Catawba peoples. And also, we have to acknowledge that these peoples that used to inhabited these spaces is still alive, and that now there are new also indigenous diasporas that come with the waves of migrants, and that here in Durham, we live among two of these large indigenous diasporas, the Otomí and Purepecha, that we have been working with through the programming and the engaged work we do with Betsaida and Ralph. Here I have some images of some of why I do this. I came to this country 23 years ago. I had to work as a migrant, cleaning, building, serving, and then studying, doing my master's and then my doctorate. And in that way, I became a scholar. And I came to North Carolina in 2008 to join this wonderful family of Duke University when Hispanic, Latino students on campus were less than 1%. And we have done a lot of progress, but we have much to do. I have been also part of the board of directors of El Centro Hispano for more than 5 years. I do, on top of the work I do for the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies, we work in clinics, in prisons, in hospitals, doing interpretation. We try to be part of a vibrant community that is emerging. Here we are in the south of the United States, and the amount of the increase of the population in the south for migrant communities is tenfold in the past 20 years. In the south, we have the largest growth of Latino migrants, Hispanic Latino migrants coming to the United States. We are still in that mode. You see in the news every day playing the issue of the border, and this is not an issue of the border. This is an issue that is going on for 5 decades, connected to multiple dimensions of the experiences of peoples in the continent, and will keep on going. And here we are net recipients of migrants every single day. The Hispanic Latino population will reach 111 million in 2060. By 2045, will be the largest minority community in the United States. Spanish is the second language, official language in the United States, and it's going to keep growing. And Spanish, of course, is what bound us as Hispanic Latino members of a community. But this is not a monolithic community. It's a very diverse community. People come from all over Latin America and South America, mostly in North Carolina, from Mexico, from Central America, this migration of proximity, also from the Caribbean, in particular from Puerto Rico. But we have people also coming from Cuba and from Haiti and from Jamaica and from many other places of the Caribbean and many other places in South America. In this point, the Hispanic Latino population in Durham is reaching 13.17%, according to the last 22 American Community Survey, and is growing. And we have decided that as scholars, we have to not only look at the issues of labor, at the issues of escaping economic conditions, at issues connected to political unrest, that of course we do through many of the departments at Duke University, but that we have to find other ways in which this community narrates itself and lives within this space in which we share. And we have found that art is a very important way in which we can create these communities, these conversations, these debates, in spaces in which people feel safe. For example, this is a painting produced collectively with Duke students and with the first DACA students, undocumented students that joined campus more than 10 years ago in 2012, thanks to a project in which Bethsaida and I were part of, two-way bridges, that is still somehow alive. This painting is actually part of the collection of Duke Universities in the university libraries. This is one of the traces of that collaboration we had for a long time with the Latino community, in particular with youth, with young people. I think we have to work with them because they can create new avenues for the community to grow. This is a mural that many of you know that there was an explosion a few years back, and unfortunately the building is condemned and the mural is going to come down. But it has been part of this emergence also of public art taking place in Durham, and this is also coming with migrants, with these new members of our larger community. This piece is also part of the collection of the Durham Central Library. It's in display there. Actually, it's the only piece of art that is in display, that is featured in this new beautiful building in downtown Durham. That is part of the Two-Way Bridges project, in which we work to try to create, right, a symbolic bridge in which Duke is not only this space, ivory tower, right, beautiful campus on this side of the city, but that creates spaces in which we can go both ways, walking to encounter communities, and the communities can come here and feel safe, and we can create together, we can think together, we can put things together, we can debate and in that way grow. Just to finish this part, I think it's very important to think Duke as a larger community, right? Undergraduates are close to 7,000 undergraduates. 43.9% are white students, 14.1% Asian students. Latinos are 7.49 of campus now. Actually, we have seen a loss of Latino presence on campus after COVID, during and after COVID. Is something that we have to make sure we have to put against in track because we reached 12% in 2019. Black or African American students are 4.24%. That's also unbelievable in a state in which 30% plus are African Americans, in a city like Durham, in which 34% of the population is African American. Then we have lots to do through civic engagement. We can create these avenues in which people can come and feel safe and find that Duke is part of the community, a real part of the community. Durham can be renamed. Actually, Hispanic Latinos don't say Durham; they say Durham because the H doesn't sound. Durham, Norte Carolina, right? And we, through this work, this engaged work that we do with many units at Duke University, are trying to help to build the story of this community. This is one of the last events we did in a mobile cinema outside in Lakewood shopping mall, poor shopping mall that actually is one of the centers of the Latino community, in which we are trying to tell the story of Latinos in Durham in particular. Now let's go to the project, Raíces, Rutas y Ritmos. The origin. Ralph, could you share how this thing started?
Yes, well, thank you. So the concept of Raíces, Rutas y Ritmos came with this wanting to share stories. And in conversations with Miguel, as we're always trying to think of new ways to engage the community and share these stories, we talked about, well, one of the things that continues to change and develop and grow is, the music part of it, right? When Latinos or individuals come from other areas, they bring with them, their struggle, they bring their stories, they bring their rhythms, they bring their everything. And we wanted to find a way that we could start to share these stories, to tell, capture, and document this continued growth. And so we talked about it. There was a wonderful young professor that had just started at Duke, and Miguel said, "Why don't we reach out to Sophia?" And there is this wonderful group of young storytellers through video and photographers, and we put this meeting together to try to see if we could put together an exhibit with the hopes of starting to capture these stories. And then obviously we believe in not only telling stories, but making it interactive where people can show up and have an experience. And so we started thinking about doing concerts, and we started thinking about doing that. And that's how things got started. It was a very simple idea. There's a tremendous amount of stories that need to be told. And the ones that were selected were we didn't select the individuals in any particular order. There's a tremendous amount of musicians and artists and individuals that have been coming long before the ones that were selected, but we wanted to make it happen. We had very little budget money, so we started with what we had, and that's how it started. And then we started working on doing the engagement with the students. It has always been the integral part of it, because when you're learning a language, it's so much better. There's so many different ways to learn, right? And I always believe that if you can learn by being immersed in the culture, so you learn the culture, you eat food, you listen to the rhythms, you learn about the music, you hear stories from individuals that are coming from different places, then it's a little bit easier for you to understand the language. And if we can connect with students in a way that it's more accessible or easier or more fun, then they're going to want to learn more about the language or go to these countries or learn more. And that's why we thought that was important to do that. Miguel, did I leave something out?
Yeah, I want to just add to that we believe, because our community is very welcoming, that we have to welcome people. That we have a new faculty, ethnomusicologist, Sofia Enriquez, coming to join Duke University, very young scholar, very bright, a Latina herself that was born and raised in Appalachia, a musician with long traditions and roots connected to folk music. And we have this couple of an indigenous Maya documentarian photographer doing incredible work of documentary work, and his couple, leader of human rights in Latin America, also coming and staying, being very young in the community. And we said these are the people that they need welcome and need spaces to grow. And that's more or less what we do always, is to welcome people, to invite them to collaborate. And they were the ones that put this exhibit together. We're going to just share and then that was how the exhibit Raíces, Rutas y Ritmos began as a research project identifying multiple rhythms that migrants are performing in public or private spaces across North Carolina, because North Carolina is full of festivals, and is there in festivals where music and food is played and then is shared, in which culture lives in a different way, without being in the shadows. Then through documentation, photo documentation, we created this exhibit that is a mobile exhibit that has also a virtual space that you can visit. And immediately, of course, Betsaida, in her work through her Bridging Cultures, brought the students. Could you, Bet, tell us a little bit of that process?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this was an excellent opportunity, as Rafa and Miguel have been describing. They initiated this project as a way to visualize the experience of the Latino community. And they, well, Miguel spoke to me about connecting again to do this project, including my students. And I'm always looking for ways in which the students can really be given the opportunity to get out and to interact with our community directly. And this was perfect. And in this picture that we have, that was the first step when my class decided to engage with the project. This was the first step where we went and learned about what Miguel, Rafa, and Sofia had already started. And we looked at the pictures and we had a conversation with them. And the students started to learn about the lives, the journeys of this population and how they came to be, and also the talents that they had that were beyond the struggles that they were facing as immigrants. And the students got really engaged and they get really interested, because after seeing them in a picture like that, we are gonna be going to their spaces and sharing with them in their own space and describing what they do and talking about what they, what other things really, what other stories they have to for us to learn about. And so this is how we started very early in September. I think we went to do the visual visit of the exhibit. And then from then we took over our next project, which was to create the presentation and at the concert. And then my students became the MCs, and they had other roles that were important. And pedagogically, for me, this is very important, because the students really became part of that creative process to develop knowledge and to develop learning and to develop skills that they may not have had otherwise, always included and in conjunction with this community.
Exactly. The first class that we involved was Borderlands and Music Crossings. That was the first class. Professor uh, Enriquez is right now right there singing. Was doing a Duke, and here we are having this interaction with two musicians, one migrant musician, Bellorin from Venezuela, and a local musician, and we'll tell you more about the story of them. But yeah, early on, the students started to get into this, and then we go to the first concert that we did in November 12, 2022, and here we are already in conversations with the Duke Civic Engagement to create the second phase of the project. Then we invited a number of musicians from the Caribbean, from Venezuela, from Mexico, from Guatemala, and from Argentina to share these rhythms with us. And we here are developing this method of embodied knowledge. This is knowledge that you have to embody in order to really came fully into that kind of knowledge. Like here we have the students being the MCs and sharing a little bit of their research prior to the presentations of each of the musicians.
Yes. Oh, I was. Yeah. No, I was going to. If these are three spots where really this also describes and very clearly the experience of the student, which is this sense of joy. I mean, it's gotta be it's gotta be happy, it's gotta be engaging, it's gotta make sense, and it has to have, to me, this idea that whatever they're learning, they can actually apply, whether that be, it could be just the language skills, but in this case, everything that they have learned has come to a point where it makes sense. Now they can hear it, they can understand it, and they can speak it. So here we have the idea of them MCN really got them very scared because like we see in the picture to the right, they are going to be speaking in both languages. Actually, that was the agreement, that they were going to do it in English and in Spanish. So the two students, one is going to do it in English, the other one is going to translate, and vice versa. They developed the PowerPoints that are behind them after doing 3-4 interviews throughout the semester to learn about the Raíces, the roots of these people, the Rutas, meaning the journeys and how they got to North Carolina, to Durham in particular, and then to learn about the rhythms that they were playing and that they were familiar with, and how they started in their musical experiences. And the students really connected. This is really a human connection, or building relationships, and that is really, really important for the outcomes of a class or of education in general. And here we can see the students really enjoying themselves, dancing, already understanding. It went beyond just going to a concert and just listening to different rhythms and doing different things. This time they really knew and understood every single thing that was happening, because they co-created actually this. And this is really paramount for me to have in the space. And if you go to the next picture, Miguel, I just wanted to mention that this is like a culmination of those where I see, or of those processes where you see the class, you have the people of the project, the team. Here is Rafa, there is Miguel, but there's also the community. And at the end, this kind of embodies for me the civic engagement concept, where there's a lot of participants from different spaces having different experiences that are enrich their learning. And then it becomes really, they can really absorb this type of knowledge.
If I may, I just wanted to add one other thing. If you leave that picture up, the other part that's very unique about this project is that it gives those artists the opportunity to feel like they have a voice, right? That they have a story that needs to be heard and that others can learn from. In particular, we had for that concert we had an individual that formed part of the group Caribe Vibe or Alto Calibre, and that the lead singer passed away 2 days prior to that concert, and yet the director of that small group decided that it was so important, the work that they had done and sharing the story, that they wanted still to participate in his honor, in his memory. And so that way that his story could be told as well. So you have this wonderful feeling from the artists in the community that they have now a platform where they also are being able to share their story and their struggle and their talent and their passion for what they do. So it's a wonderful way to do that.
Exactly. Music is like a time machine in which you can relate issues of geography, history, of course, human stories, and also ways in which that music relates to a particular place because of the instruments there are played, because of the way in which this is played, the when and the how, right? The ritual dimensions of music, and the collisions and encounters in which this cultural formations take place. And I think students get a lot out of that. And then by interacting with a performer, with a musician that actually also is a migrant that is living through a particular reality, is very enriching for everybody. Then we
Miguel, since if you go back, I just wanted to mention quickly, since Rafa mentioned about the death of the musician, my students had to go through that too, because they had an opportunity to speak to that person for just briefly a few minutes, because it's a trio or a group, right, Rafa?
Right.
And so they spoke more with one of them in particular, but they actually connected with this person. And then I had to tell them that this had happened. And it is a type of learning. I mean, the students really were exposed to these kinds of the vulnerability of the rest of the group, of course, but also this sense of empathy and compassion that is so important to understand that life, this can happen. And this is also good for them to experience.
Issues of health in the Latino community came front for that moment. Then we kept the project going in a second momentum in which we'll promise to do concerts that will bring these communities in different spaces within the community in Durham. Then we produced 2 concerts in spring 2023. The first one was in Golden Belt, an interesting space as is part of this process of urban renovation, a space in which new people from Durham and newcomers from all sorts of ways of life are encountering themselves in this kinds of post-industrial spaces, post-agro-industrial spaces in Durham. And we had a really interesting experience bringing another group of musicians to that location and to interact with that community. And that created also opportunities for us to develop new or strengthen our networks, bringing new participants within that, thinking more also in the way we have to honor the way these musicians work, bringing students into thinking about cultural production as another way to develop their skills, not only in language, culture, history, but also technically speaking. And we put together this second concert. And as Beth said here in this post, it was cold that day, right, Beth?
It never stopped raining.
Yeah, it was very cold, but it was a different vibe from concert number 1. The first one we were on campus, and in this time we are going to the community, And so we are the ones who make the move out to make it more accessible and more direct, to have a more direct contact with the community itself. And here, despite the cold, we pretty much got pretty warm pretty quickly after beginning our dancing experimentation. But the students also, it was fascinating for me to see the students in that kind of environment, because even though when we did it on campus, the space is an auditorium, so it was more formal seating arrangement. But here, it was very interesting. They could really connect directly with the artist, and they were very engaging to the point that the students really felt comfortable, despite being in a very public sphere. They really participated and connected. We had already gone through this process with a different course. This is a different class in the spring, but they really had a good time. And a lot of them actually at the end of the semester, many of them really made the comment that this was their favorite activity. It wasn't supposed to happen for this class, but I connected it to that particular class. It wasn't my immigration course. It was an advanced Spanish course. And they really enjoy it. And you can tell that you don't have to have a service. It was not a service learning class. And they didn't do a particular research for this, meaning interview process, but they did other type of interactions with this artist. And it was definitely something that they remembered. And they mentioned how music allowed them to feel alive, and how music made them connect very quickly without language barriers with these people. But yet the language and the culture was kind of being shown constantly through the different numbers that the artists were providing and singing. And it was just a full, and community just came, people that were there that didn't know what was happening. They also ended up indirectly being part of the experience. And that was a very, very neat experience for us.
And it's very interesting also through this work that we recognize how this diverse Hispanic Latino community is taking shape here in North Carolina, in Durham, and how other indigenous diasporas are also part of this this population. The Huastecos, for example. Here we have the group of these three men in the bottom left, Trio Huasteco. They perform this music that is a folkloric dance based music, and there is a large community of Huastecos, and we realize that, and now they are playing all over the place. They have been becoming really successful in their work. They are actually, all of them have different works. One of them is a butcher, another one works in a grocery store, the other one works in construction, whatever. Then also another rhythm that has been becoming really relevant, and for students to enjoy these kinds of folkloric rhythms is very interesting. El son jarocho, right? That is something that is also taking place here from Veracruz, Mexico. Mexico has a very rich, a musical tradition because of the diversity of peoples. Then also very interesting how things like that, right? Recognizing this diversity, right? It becomes more and more clear that this community is not monolithical, and students recognize that and got interest and start digging into those issues. Here we have students in action, dancing, and all having fun. Very cold day. And we have a third concert to close like this series. And it was very special because the project took off by itself, and we were invited to participate in one of the first concerts of this series. It's called The Playlist in downtown Durham, in Durham Central Park, through, with the city of Durham and a number of other organizations in Durham, and we were invited to feature a group of Latino artists. It was a really good moment to close this second part of the project. Rob, do you want to share about this?
Yeah, and So this goes back to what we talked about as far as creating platforms for stories to be told. And what great way that we started in academia trying to share these stories, and then the community started asking to be part of it. And that's when you know that when the city of Durham says, "Look, we love what you're doing. We love this storytelling. We love the music. Can you or would you want to participate in our series?" And that just takes on a world of its own, where you're invited to now participate in something that's ongoing. You increase the network of those musicians that are participating, as well as the individuals that we're collaborating with. And the community just starts to now enjoy these wonderful stories that we have been sharing for now, 2 years or more. And it was fascinating. There was thousands of people there. It turned into a great party. And for me, what made it wonderful was how the musicians felt like they belonged part of this community. Goes back to what we were talking about, as seeing themselves reflected in the community that they see. Because community building and civic engagement means that everyone can share in the sun, right? That everyone has a place in the community. And this really was a really nice cherry on top, if you will, of the work that we had been doing to try to engage our community and to make sure that that the community is reflected within the greater community, and it's not just in academia, in these spaces that are surrounded by walls and barriers, but we're taking it now to the streets, into the community, and so powerful and so invigorating and so exciting and hopeful when you see the community buying into it and saying, yeah, we want to be part of it. And it's really fulfilling to see that.
Exactly. We realize how Duke, if we cannot have a real impact in policy regarding migration. We as scholars and people that work in the universities can have an impact in the way these stories can be told, the integration can happen, how the vitality of this cultural experiences are part of nascent communities, and how we can create these networks of solidarity and support among them. This group is nowadays very active. They communicate to each other. They share some of these gigs. Some students are still friends with some of these musicians. Professors like Sofia Enriquez keeps on working on these rhythms in her scholarship, and we keep on trying to feature the work of them through documentary making, through writing, scholarly writing, and hopefully through more civic engagement. Many rhythms here. We have cumbia punk. We have hip hop, we have folkloric sounds, we have salsa, Caribbean rhythms, we have pop music, we have mariachis, we have all sorts of rhythms that cross the entire region, that are right here, right now, with us in this community. And then let's share with you briefly some of the successes and challenges that we have faced and that we see in this work with civic engagement. Beth, let's go one by one.
Okay.
Sure. Well, one of the great things, the positive outcomes of this kind of relationship with the community are, as they are listed there, the embodiment of knowledge that we were talking about before, and how living knowledge, in a way, if I want to put it somehow, living an experience is so much more impactful for the students, and that has been my constant experience with them. And the development and the cultivation of certain what I do not want to call soft skills, but that's what people that's the way we recognize these most important skills of empathy, of collaboration, of flexibility, adaptability, friendship, connections. Those are so important for the students to know, for all of us, to just be part of our community in a way that is productive and that is positive and that is creative. Obviously, in my case, for example, for students, they develop public speaking and social engagement skills. Some of them had never talked in front of a crowd that was native speaker, and they were speaking Spanish. I mean, to these people, they really had some training to do, but it's just the same as I have to do when I have to speak in English. And so they actually share that experience, and this is very, very important. The cultural production of outside of spaces of comfort that, again, connects with that idea where they are going to have to go out of the classroom and produce something, and it's not easy for them to go and make questions and understand what the artists were saying and follow their speed in Spanish. And the artists get really excited when they talk about these things. So Spanish moves, and it moves quick, and they have to adapt to these kinds of things. Obviously, increases the diversity and inclusion awareness. But for me, one of the most important things that I wanted to say before is that my course is called Bridging Cultures, Latino Lives and Experiences in North Carolina. So for me, it's very important that they go beyond as important as it is, our agricultural world and the life of agricultural workers. They also need to know that why the immigrant community is so powerful where they go, because they bring with them so many strengths and so many other talents that we need to discover those. So we are going to talk about challenges and things that need to improve, but we also need to talk about all of these cultural beautiful things that they also bring with them and with their experience. It increases the diversity, of course, and the inclusion. I mean, like Miguel was saying, diversity in music, diversity in accents, diversity in experiences, and makes them also feel part of the community. Also from our side and from their side, it's important that these cultural groups do not feel like they're out. They belong to a different place, but they actually belong with us. It's community-based scholarship. Of course, this is a great way to produce knowledge and share knowledge, and therefore this is of utmost important. And it expands networks for future work amongst ourselves. I mean, I'm gonna say that I like very much working with Miguel and Rafa, and we have done this for a long time. It creates that opportunity, but even for the students, have connections with them, as a couple of my students continue their connection with some of the artists that they interview. So it could be that kind of relationship building that is also important for the students. So that's on the advantages part.
Exactly. Just to address a couple of issues that came up with at the beginning, the exhibit that we wanted to put together was about environmental justice. The story was how to connect migration to issues of environmental injustice in the Americas. Because the documentary work of the photographer we worked with, Rodrigo Joel Diaz, who is a Maya artist from Guatemala, was about that. And then we found many of these migrants, musicians, that also were displaced by these kinds of issues, right? Issues of environmental concerns. And then also the ones that come and work here, right? There are environmental concerns for the people that work in the fields in North Carolina. There are issues of security for the people that work in construction sites, or that are, risks in job sites. I mean, there are all sorts of dimensions for people that want to work in qualitative research, right? And part of what these kinds of projects do is that give these people the possibility to create these relationships based on trust, to create real research action through qualitative research later. A student cannot go to a community and drop itself and say, I'm going to save you. I'm working on issues of health and exposition to whatever metal, heavy metal. if it doesn't have these kinds of opportunities to create this through empathy, through solidarity, to relationships, right, to cultural awareness of what is happening in that community. I think this gives students that kind of possibilities beyond the cultural aspect. We're celebrating here culture, but it goes much larger, beyond that. That's on the success side. There is many other challenges in the work we do. We believe that this kind of work is still extractive, that we still instrumentalize many times this kind of work with communities. It's very easy to do it because we are in a space of privilege, right? We are at Duke University. And there is definitely a history here that we have to face all the time. We are always asking ourselves how to make this sustainable. Because it's really hard to work with communities. It's really hard to work outside of a classroom. It's really hard to bring people to tell the stories to students, to bring them without having the real possibility to engage with them. Then sustainability of these kinds of operations is very important for the people that do this kind of work. The recognition of scholarly work in evaluation, through evaluations at Duke and through our work. Then we have, after this, we have to go and put up together a paper or try to develop some sort of report that can, become a white paper and go to publication. And we think that it goes a little bit against the spirit of civic engagement. If what we are planning is a paper or a conference presentation through this work, I think is the wrong way to do it, right? Maybe, after many of these experiences, something will come in the academic work, but it cannot be the thing you want to do in order to get, your next paper published.
The only thing I would add to that is that, as you said, there's a lot of challenges. One of the biggest challenges that you run into when you're trying to do a project like this, and I know we're running short on time, is trust. And Miguel talked about that. My role in this, what I bring to the table is 30 plus years working within the community with a lot of these artists and artisans to be able to bring them to the table, to be able to have them trust that they're not just going to be utilized and that their time isn't going to be wasted, but they're really going to have an opportunity to share their stories and that they're going to be valued, right? And so that's very difficult, and it requires a lot of hours of communications and follow-up phone calls and just the ability to connect with them, for them to get the buy-in to be able to also participate. And it also requires the ability to make those that we work with, like these wonderful individuals, Rode and Emily, for them to take the time to also put in the work to be able to share these stories. So there's a lot of investment on many different from a lot of different folks, and unfortunately, funding is a problem. It's a major problem where we run into to make these things happen.
Yeah, basically in the logistics, transportation, logistics, moving the students, responsibility, liability is huge on us that are the ones that are bringing students out there, right? It's all sorts of things that we have to face, processing pain, expenses, recognizing the work of people is really, really hard in this administrative space. Those are like the challenges that we find the most. Then great success story is this couple. Rafa, do you want to share about this?
Yeah, so one of the wonderful things about when we do projects, and we found over the many years when we do projects, is connecting individuals. And so through the El Quijote Festival, I was able to connect with Miguel's help with Sofia Enriquez, and I invited her to an event that we did with the City of Raleigh Museum, downtown Raleigh, that I do every year, Dia de los Muertos. And Larry Bellorin is an individual that I've been supporting and helping and promoting for many years because he's fabulous. And when I heard about Sophia's work and her connection with Appalachian music, and I said, oh, I gotta make sure that she meets Larry, and that connection through this project and through the work that I do made that connection. And then she was able to introduce her to Joe, and that was magic. And now these two individuals, through our humble projects that we've been doing, have been really, really growing. And they met each other. They started playing music together. There was also a connection with Rode and with Emily, with a couple of documentaries, and so it organically created this wonderful experience. And then these two individuals are like the hot ticket right now. They are having tremendous success all over the United States. They've appeared on PBS. They're really doing really good. So a lot of good work, and it just shows that we're more alike than we are different, and the arts and has a way of doing that, of bringing people together. So that's a wonderful story. We're very proud of them.
That's it for us.
Yes.
Thank you very much, friends. And what a beautiful feast and a quick marathon of cultural, intellectual feast that you have taken us through. Now, it's an opportunity for us to ask more questions to see if we can go a little bit more deep dive. And please pay attention to the link that Brooke has shared in terms of providing feedback to us, how we can do more and better of these programs. Please raise your hand or get my attention to ask questions to our wonderful panelists.
Actually, if I could ask a question,
Please, yes.
yeah, thank you. I know, thank you so much. I really,
What a beautiful.
it was absolutely beautiful. And I think especially the reflections on the ways in which students have been involved and in which they are affected, because I do think that it's so important to recognize not only what we are giving to the community through these connections, but what we are getting as well. And obviously there's a lot. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the follow-on work that you have been doing as well. I know that you are also now doing a project in looking at food cultures and connecting to food cultures. Could I just ask you to talk a little bit about that as well? And then we have some questions in the chat as well.
Oh yeah, no, this is an ongoing project. As Beth said, we started many years ago. We have been doing civic engagement since we came, more than 15 years. And a big part of that is that we have to start mapping all this incredible richness of these communities, and how better to do it through ways we like to do it, right? For example, food. Beth actually already pilot a class last semester on that. The idea is to try to expand that, to create these maps and then experiences in which both, right, communities and Duke, we can engage and encounter each other, because this is connected also to economies of a scale, but this is connected also with food traditions, with nutrition, health, all sorts of things. Then, yeah, that's one side of the mapping that we are trying to do. But do you want to share a little bit what you did with your students?
Yes, last fall, I changed it to Raíces, Rutas, and flavors, y sabores. I asked Miguel and Rafa if I could use that word so that I can, because it's about the immigrant experience, so I still want them to learn where they come from, how they got here, what they do here. But so they let me use this small change to emphasize this time the food and the connection that they had the food in their journey to this country. And last semester, then they got into groups, and instead of interviewing artists like we did then, they had to choose two restaurants, two Latino-owned restaurants in Durham, and in groups, they had to go on their own, do interviews, prepare questions, and learn about the lives and the experiences of these people and how they got to where they were, how they started the restaurant. And then they had to develop questions regarding their connections with food and how food was present has been present in their journey. If they had changed recipes, or if they had done new things, or how they have prepared their original dishes and things like that. So it was a really nice experience for the students. They had to go to the restaurant, they had to eat a couple of meals from the restaurant, and then they had to, go through the whole process from making a phone call and asking for an appointment when it was convenient for our members of the community, and then go from there. And then they did infographics to just show what they found out. And that was a very interesting experience for them. And at the end, as a closing event, we went to Carmen's as a group. So we went all to do Cuban food in this case, because we connected that with music. And we went to a dance class, and then we stayed right in the restaurant, and we had a nice interaction with the waiters and the owners of the restaurant that night. So that's how we ended, with a meal together after they had done the little small group projects.
We want to scale it and try to do these mappings in which we can start connecting communities that share a space, and then also go all the way through the origins of these foods, the ingredients of them, the processes, the chemistry. I mean, it would be a really rich project. And of course, we want to have the participation of the civic engagement, just to share a couple of the maps that we are starting to work for these kinds of projects.
We had an earlier question. I don't know if she's still part of the audience. How can we learn Spanish in the area? Are there community resources for people who would like to learn and improve their Spanish?
So
Yes.
many.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Well, first, there's the community. There's plenty of community, Spanish-speaking community around. I usually tell my students that when I do short runs around East Campus, many years ago, I would not hear a word of Spanish, and now I'm going around, all I hear is Spanish, going back and forth. And so that on one side, we do have classes at Duke, but they cannot, unless you register as a student, you can take one of our classes, and you have to be a student actually. But you cannot do audit classes. But also the International House has possibilities to connect with people. And there's also another group that meets that actually is the International House. I think they still do, they connect people one-on-one. I forget how they call it, but that's another informal opportunity. Also in the Spanish department, we do have a Spanish table that we call, that goes on every Wednesday. And that is open, it's mostly for the students, but that's open to the community. We do yoga in Spanish. Sometimes we watch videos and discuss them, but it's all for Spanish practice. So but all levels are welcome. So those are some possibilities. And there's some meetup groups that I have learned about lately that do.
And if you're really serious, you can go to the continuing education of the Durham Technical Community College, Durham Tech. They offer the best language programs, very affordable. If you are staff
at Duke,
you work at Duke, you can get discounts. Actually, you can, by doing some sort of integration, get Spanish classes at Duke, but it needs a little bit of extra legwork. But there are many opportunities to learn Spanish through also religious
as well.
Organizations, small community organizations. El Centro Hispano offers in Spanish and English classes. Many organizations offer Spanish classes, and then very easy to practice, as Betsaida said.
Thank you. Liz, you have your own last question. It seems you will have the last word. Please go ahead and ask instead of me reading your question.
Okay. I just would love to, if you would let us know. Abdullah mentioned in the chat how sad it was that he had missed this beautiful event in Durham Central Park. So I was wondering if you could let us know about any upcoming events from this collaborative or that are related so that people will be able to attend.
Yeah, actually, we are featuring one of the groups of the Raíces, Rutas y Ritmos in the conference, the statewide conference on Latin American and Caribbean Studies in February 23rd, Friday, 6:30 to 7:30 at the FedEx Global Education Center in Chapel Hill. It's an open concert by Son Carolina. We are still defining some details, and if it doesn't work, we'll have Laura Gonski and her group performing that. Then we'll be sharing through the networks this, and there are many concerts of many of the members of Raíces, Rutas y Ritmos through Civic engagement. We can share the information. Thank you very much.
Also, take this opportunity to invite you all to visit imquijote.com. It's the festival. We're in our 9th annual. We still have a tremendous amount of upcoming events. So check us out. Everything that we do is bilingual, bicultural. So Spanish, English, sometimes trilingual. So sometimes as good Puerto Ricans, we speak Spanglish. So, you know, we'll get the information out. You have a good time. And a lot of the events that we do as part of the festival involve all the different genres of art, including gastronomy, so food. So it gives you an opportunity to come out and hear and taste and see all the wonderful things that our community has to offer.
Thank you very much. Well, looking forward to checking all of this myself. Yes, and truly grateful. And what an incredible richness to our society, and looking forward to exploring more.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And we will share the recording with all the attendees. And please fill out the quadric so we can be in touch with you for future events.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.